This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening. They've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back.
Good morning, Owasso. This is Chad with Owasso Live, and this is the Morning Loop. Well, it's kind of old news too, but Trump has deployed the National Guard to D.C. to try to lower the crime rates that's going on there. And there's just been a bunch of stuff going on, like regarding them covering up the actual crime stats in D.C. The chief of police or whoever, or the vice chief of police, whatever, allegedly covering up crime stats or, manipulating the crime stats to make themselves look better. And, everyone, of course, is calling Donald Trump a fascist for deploying the National Guard to try to assist in getting the crime rates down. So we're going to pull up these articles here and get started into this. So let's do it. All right, so first one we have here is D.C. Police accused of downplaying violent crime to make stats look more favorable. Completely agree with Trump. All right. The Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. face accusations of routinely manipulated stats on crimes such as stabbings, shootings, carjackings to make the city look less violent than it is. The allegations predate President Trump's intervention in the city's deployment of the federal agents and National Guard troops over the rash crime. At least one of the high-ranking officers has been suspended so far over disturbing claims about the D.C. police union said the practice reflects standard operating procedures across the department. When our members respond to scenes of felony offense where there is a victim reporting that a felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or a captain that show up on that scene and direct those members to take the report for a lesser offense, D.C. Police Union Chairman Greg Pemberton told NBC Washington last month. And yeah, that's Michael Pulliam, police commander of the D.C.'s 3rd District, was put on paid leave in mid-May, allegedly for manipulating local crime stats to make them look more favorable. All right. So, as of taking the report, golly, these ads. As of taking the report for shooting or stabbing, carjacking, they will order the police officer to take a report for a theft or injured person to the hospital or a felony assault, which is not the same classification. The department confirmed to the outlet that Michael Pulliam, commander of the city's 3rd District, was put on paid leave in mid-May, and unnamed law enforcement sources said that he was being investigated internally for making questionable changes to crime data. Pulliam allegedly falsified violent crime statistics to make them appear more favorable for the city, an accusation he denies. Donald Trump last week, Section 740 of the D.C.'s Home Rule Act to place the Capitol's forces under federal control for 30 days, citing that an outcome of violent rise in crime, particularly among youthful offenders. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals. Roving mobs of wild youths drug out the maniac of homeless people. The Trump said Monday that we're not going to let this happen anymore. We're going to take it. The Trump said the crime crackdown, which he dubbed Liberation Day for D.C., would include the deployment of 700 National Guard members, with an additional 750 coming up from the GOP-led South Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia in the days to come. The move provoked a swift condemnation from liberals who rushed the left-leaning news outlets such as CNN, MSNBC, accused Trump of everything from federal overreach to power grab to using his federal takeover as a ploy to get late powerful pedo Jeffrey Epstein out of the headlines. Prominent Democrats, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York City and the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, took to social media to parrot MPD's crime stats, which have been thrown into question pending the result of the Pulliam investigation. Violent crime in Washington, D.C. was at a 30-year low, Jeffries said on Monday. Trump has no bias to take control of local police departments and zero credibility on the issue of law. Get lost. Clinton posted on X last week, as you listen to an unhinged president justify deploying of the National Guard to D.C., here is the reality. Violent crime in D.C. is at a 30-year low. The District of Columbia has the fourth highest murder per capita in the U.S., according to a February report by Rochester Institute of Technology, seeing 265 murders, a 20-year high in 2023, and 186 in 2024. Even with the 37% drop in homicides between 2023 and 2024, as recorded by the MPD, D.C. remained the fourth worst city for murders per capita, edging out well-known homicide hotspots like Compton, California, Newark, New Jersey, and even Chicago. Announcing the crackdown, President Trump noted that D.C.'s murder rate even eclipses those crimes challenged Mexico City and Bogota, Colombia. The MPD's data also asserts that the violent crime in D.C. dropped 35% across the board between 2023, 5,345 reported incidents, and 2024, only 3,469 incidents. Pemberton said during the interview on Fox Business that the police union completely agrees with Trump's decision to federalize the city's police force. You hear that? Pemberton said in an interview that the police union agrees with the decision to federalize the police forces because the Democratic folks there don't let the police do their jobs. Remember, January 6th, the two people that could have deployed the National Guard were Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and they refused. Trump even requested that they bring in the National Guard, and they refused. The crime in the district is out of control, and something needs to be done about it. This concept that crime is down is really old trope, he said. They're using statistics in a way that make it appear that crime is going down, but our rank-and-file officers know that we're going call for armed carjackings, stabbings, robberies, shootings, homicide, and crime isn't going anywhere. The Post reached out to the union on Saturday but did not immediately hear back. That is crazy. Absolutely crazy that this is where we're at. And yeah, they're just pretending like this stuff's not happening. But yeah, you can play with the numbers. If you change how you record the numbers, you can make the numbers look whatever way you want. That's if you had a way of recording statistics all along, and then all of a sudden someone just comes along and goes, we're going to change how we record these statistics. You're manipulating the data. Or in this case, like they have police captains or lieutenants come in and straight up be like, don't report this one as a, violent stabbing. We're going to report it as something else, which doesn't strike me as, too crazy. But we'll go ahead and watch this video right here of Trump talking, which is kind of how we started the show, but this is the full kind of press breakdown.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back.
In a fiery press conference, President Trump announced a takeover of D.C.'s local police force as violent crime on the streets of Washington appears to be spiraling out of control. But is this move by the White House legal? Here's what you need to know about Trump's historic crackdown. Passed in 1973, the Federal Home Rule Act granted the District of Columbia self-governance. However, Section 740 of the law allows the president to assert emergency control over the Metropolitan Police Department, or MPD, for 30 days, Congress can pass a joint resolution extending the authority. Trump also announced plans for the National Guard to be deployed. The president has direct control over D.C.'s National Guard, unlike every other unit, which is under the authority of each state's governor. In response to the announced takeover, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser seized the moment to advocate for full statehood for the district, calling their democracy tenuous. She said the Home Rule Act intrudes on their autonomy in many ways.
We are American citizens. Our families go to war. We pay taxes and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past, that we're totally surprised.
Mayor Bowser admitted that the Capitol has seen a post-COVID crime surge, spiking in 2023, but claimed the city reversed it. Recently, she imposed curfews in some neighborhoods to keep teens off the street as early as 7 p.m. and reported a 30-year crime low. It's a stark contrast to the grim picture painted by Trump, who told reporters that the city has been overtaken by gangs and bloodthirsty criminals and roving mobs of wild youth who are riding unauthorized ATVs and motorbikes down the streets, which are littered with, quote, drugged-out maniacs and homeless people. This comes amid a series of high-profile crime stories in Washington. As recently as August 3rd, a former DOJ staffer, Edward Korstein, age 19, was attacked during an alleged attempted carjacking. On June 30th, congressional intern Eric Tarpinian Joachim, age 21, was killed in a drive-by shooting. Back in 2023, Texas Democratic Rep. Henry Queller was also involved in a carjacking. That same year, an aide to Republican Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky was stabbed. As tensions build, President Trump also threatened to flex his federal might on New York City and name-check Chicago and Los Angeles as well. Although it remains to be seen how the Empire State, Illinois, and California would respond to such drastic and potentially unconstitutional measures.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all with that. It's like the police need help, and the Democrats aren't helping them. The Democrats make it easier for criminals to get away. It's slap on the wrist policies, let these kids get away with whatever they want. Like, you know, back in the day, I was one of those people like, you know, youth shouldn't be tried as adults. Well, depending on the severity of the crime, yeah, they should be tried as adults because it gets them off the streets. Because we're seeing that if you just keep giving kids that are anywhere from 16 to 17 years old, or we'll just say from 14 to 18 years old, that they're going to reoffend, that they're going to keep reoffending. Because they know that they're just going to get a slap on the wrist and they're not going to go to jail. Nothing bad is going to happen to them. So you got to have some type of incentive program that incents people not to do this. And if you start sending kids to jail for crimes that they commit that are super severe felonies, yeah, they're going to start changing their tune when they start going to hardcore lockup. See what this is? This kind of already saw this with the New York Times one, but New York Post article. But 3 states to deploy hundreds of National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. South Carolina and Ohio join West Virginia in pledging troops, fueling protests over a political policing mission. 3 states have moved to deploy hundreds of members of their National Guard to the Capitol as part of Trump's administration effort to overhaul the policing in Washington through federal crackdown. West Virginia is deploying about 300 to 400 Guards troops, while South Carolina pledged 200, and Ohio said it would also send 150 in the coming days. The move announced on Saturday came as protesters pushed back on the federal law enforcement and National Guard troops fanning out the heavily Democratic city following Donald Trump's executive order of federalizing local police forces and activating about 100 District of Columbia National Guard members. The Office of West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey said in a statement that the deployment was a show of commitment to the public safety and regional cooperation, and that the state would provide equipment and approximately 300 to 400 skilled personnel as directed. The statement came after Donald Trump's ordered hundreds of Washington, D.C. National Guard troops to mount a show of force and temporarily overlook the city's police department to curb what the president depicts as crime and homelessness emergency in the nation's capital. The data compiled over the D.C. Police Department shows that violent crime was actually at a 30-year low. When Trump returned to office, he said that it declined to further 26% since then. Now, that's because a Republican's in office, and criminals know that Republicans will enforce laws. Democrats will not. So we're going to pull up a couple of things. And like, here's the other part of this, too, was old Big Balls was it mentioned it in the video that we watched earlier. But, yeah, that's part of the reason why they wanted to do this. Like, a woman was being carjacked. He stopped to intervene, and he got beat. He got beat senseless over this. We already kind of talked about this. Said a few days ago, and this is from Elon Musk, a gang of about a dozen young men tried to assault a woman in her car right in D.C. A Doge team member saw what was happening and defended her and was severely beaten to the point of concussion, but he saved her. And that's when Donald Trump made his big post about, wanting to do something about the crime in D.C. In this house, Big Balls is a hero. End of story. Oh, that's good. That's good. And then they have the Batman clip. Love it for Big Balls. That's good stuff. Yeah. It's like people are being murdered on their way to work in D.C. D.C. is one of the heaviest crime-ridden cities, and it's also 98% Democrat. That's the reason why they keep saying, we want to make the District of Columbia a state. Like, they want to make D.C. its own state, so that way it'll just be liberal. And they get 2 more Senate seats. The Democrats will get 2 more Senate seats. And whatever the heck they determine as their, their congressional seats, which would be ridiculous because pretty much everyone there works in politics. So you're just basically just giving Democrats more fuel, which is so stupid. And it's not even big enough to be a state. So that's so stupid. But that's what's going on. It's absolutely ridiculous. But, I mean, Trump should do this. He should do this everywhere because police departments are requesting more help. Every police department in these big major cities are requesting more help, not less help. It's absolutely ridiculous that they just keep ignoring all this, and Democrats just pretend like this stuff isn't happening. Like, oh, they're exaggerating. They're exaggerating. But, anyway, we'll pull this up. Fun fact, these are the people running the police departments in some of America's most crime-ridden cities. What do you notice? So the top comment there is DEI is killing us. Yeah. Absolutely insane. Like, we've all seen the videos of like those 2 women that are trying to arrest a guy, and he just ragdolls them and gets away. It's like, I'm not against female police officers, but I don't think that they should be beat cops making arrests because they definitely can't handle everything that a man can handle, and they get hurt. I mean, we see these videos all the time of female police officers getting overpowered by male suspects. You can just go watch compilation videos of them on YouTube. It's crazy. Oh, this one's good. From the Babylon Bee, Metropolis sues Superman for reducing crime. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Babylon Bee crushing it as always. Then here, Democrats. Am I out of touch? Democrats. No. No. Fighting for the rights of violent illegal criminals is exactly what Americans want us to do. And that's what they do. They are more likely to protect the rights of criminals than they are to protect the rights of citizens. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Ah, yes. The old, restart it real quick. Said, current chief of D.C. Police, Pamela Smith, is the former chief equity officer whose primary job was overseeing diversity programs. She is literally a DEI hire, which is why concepts such as the chain of command are lost on her. Now, in her defense, maybe she's asking, like, what do you mean the chain of command? Like, right now, how has it changed since Pam Bondi's getting involved? But, it doesn't look well. It definitely, the way that she, asked that did not look well. She did not look like confident in her answers there. So let's check this out.
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it...
Doesn't look good. The worst case scenario is she has no clue what the chain of command actually is or means. Best case scenario is she didn't understand, like, I still report to my boss, so my job hasn't changed any. So you have to ask yourself what you believe that she means by that. So that's up to y'all for interpretation right there. Trump, I'm going to make D.C. safer and make our nation's capital respectable again. Liberals, no! Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, trying to stop crimes and make places less violent and clean up the streets, and liberals are driven crazy by this. Yeah. Deranged leftist from Michigan says he's leaving behind his entire family job and cat to drive to D.C. so he can protest against Trump. Liberals are not well. Liberals are not well. These people are insane. These people probably belong in mental institutions or need to be medicated. Listen to this guy.
My kids, my family, my house, my job, my cat, and everything else just to fucking drive to D.C. right now. I am driving from Michigan to Washington, D.C. because Pedo 47 is a piece of shit, and I'm gonna stick up for my fucking fellow citizens. So fuck you, MAGA. I'm on my way to D.C. I'm leaving my...
We are so scared. We are so scared, sir. But in reality, a guy who's willing to just abandon his family, his job, to go to Washington, D.C. is probably crazy enough to kill somebody. Like the asylum is being run by the inmates, basically. This is insane. Absolutely insane. And then liberals will just defend this guy going, he has a right to protest. He has a right to speech. One from SKS Cartoons said it's a guy clearly being shot by one of the criminal youths in D.C. He says, relax. Statistically, crime has been declining. It's like, yeah, everything's been declining until it's happening to you. And that's the funniest thing in the world is when you read about a Democratic politician that's getting robbed or mugged in their crime-ridden hometown or in D.C. It's crazy. Said Gavin Newsom vows to double down California's violent crime if Trump doesn't stop cleaning up D.C. Another one from the Babylon Bee. The Babylon Bee crushing it as usual. Absolutely love the Babylon Bee. Can't get enough of them. And here's just a video of the National Guard like presence in Washington, D.C. right now. Yep. Protesters and just like images of the National Guard doing their jobs. Like, and they're just there to support the police. The police, that the National Guard being there, like Gavin Newsom when he was on the Sean Ryan podcast is not wrong. The National Guard is not there to do the police's job. They're there to free up police officers to be able to do their job more effectively. So instead of having a bunch of cops around, like just standing around and like blocking areas off for crimes or, you know, conducting traffic or whatever, the National Guard is doing those jobs so the police can actually go out and investigate crimes and do the more heavy lifting side of their job. It frees up more officers to be able to investigate crimes and help out at crime scenes, whereas the National Guard is literally there as just a show of force and to do the minute jobs that the police, I mean, that they don't, not that they don't want to do, but the jobs that help free them up to have more officers to help do crime stuff, to help actually do jobs that prevent crimes or investigate crimes. That's what goes on here in these situations. So, but that's pretty much all I've got for today. This was Chad with Owasso Live. This was the Morning Loop. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you too can stay in the loop. But I'm just going to play us out with another video similar to that. But that's pretty much all I've got for today. I will catch you all in the next one. See you later, everybody.